This is CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find out more and open an account online at telhio.org. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
And tonight, it is game 2 of this series. And what is it going to be like? It's going to be a very good indicator of what this series is going to be. You know, game 1, I don't think is a real indicator. And I'll tell you why. It's great for the Blue Jackets. Don't get me wrong. Don't start to get upset here. Hear me out, okay? It is a great win for the Blue Jackets. They're not expected to win in the series from the outside. They expect themselves to win. They're not expected to win from the outside. Everything is on the Tampa Bay Lightning in this series. As we talked about earlier in the week, prior to game 1, you know, Tampa could say whatever the heck they want to, but the fact of the matter is they had such a great regular season. They are expected to just come in and roll over the number 8 seed, the Blue Jackets. Okay? So there's pressure there. There's no doubt about that. And then you get up 3-0 in the first period. You're scoring at will. You're doing whatever you want. The Blue Jackets are running around in their own end. Sergei Bobrovsky is not completely sharp. And you're thinking that, well, this is going down just the way we thought it would, just the way everybody thought it would. This is going to be easy. And I think the minute that you get that mindset in this sport, the minute you get that mindset, it's going to be easy. It can get really, really hard on you. And the Blue Jackets then quickly turned it around and made it really hard on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it was a great win for the Blue Jackets. It gives them life. It gives them confidence. It gives them belief. I think the most important thing that came out of that first game win in this series for the Blue Jackets is that they now know that they can beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. They now know they can come from behind to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's not going to be the plan by any means. The plan is going to be, hey, how about we get a lead? How about we maintain a lead? How about we finish these guys? That'll be the mindset. Not how about we fall behind, chase, and then win late in the third period like they did the other night. So that's what the good thing is for the Blue Jackets. You know, they thought already, they're thinking we're a good team. Everybody's counting us out. We believe in ourselves. We talked about all these things the other day, that the Blue Jackets have to have that self-belief, and then they have to go out there and put it to use. Okay, so they did. They did. So they have gotten all that out of it. What about the Tampa Bay Lightning? And this is why I say tonight is going to be a real look into what we're in here in this series for. What we're in for in this series. That's the way I want to say it. What are we in for in this series? First of all, if you think that the Tampa Bay Lightning is a team that is kind of shrugging off what happened the other night, I don't care what they say. I don't care how they act. I can tell you what they're going to do. They are going to come out and look to end the Blue Jackets' euphoria tonight. And look at the spot that they're in. They're at home. They have to go on the road for the next 2 games. They cannot afford to lose this game tonight. It's not that you would lose the series, and unfortunately we all know that all too well. You don't win a series if you go up 2-0. But the Tampa Bay Lightning doesn't want to go into that situation. I don't think they want to get on the road and have to win 2 games, especially against a team that, if it were to win tonight, do you think the confidence was high after the 4-3 win? If they can go up 2-0, what do you think the confidence would be like going into Game 3? So the Lightning cannot afford to have that happen. But for the Lightning, I think their pride took a big hit in that game 2 nights ago. And when you hurt somebody's pride and you hurt their feelings in a way, sometimes they come back really strong. This team's going to come out strong tonight. I don't think there's any question about that. They're going to try to play the entire game tonight like they played the middle part of that first period the other night. And that's when the Blue Jackets were scrambling around. They were all over the place. They were losing coverage on their guys, and all of a sudden Tampa was putting the puck in the net like it was nobody's business. Now, the X Factor, who became an X Factor in Game 1, Sergei Bobrovsky, because as shaky as he looked at points in the first period, and I'm not blaming him on all of those goals, but as shaky as he looked and a little bit unsure of himself When period number 2 came, the Sergei Bobrovsky that was the number 1 star for the last week of March, the Sergei Bobrovsky that was the number 2 star for the month of March, that guy came out to play periods 2 and 3. And that's what scares the Lightning. That's what scares the Lightning, for sure. You know that's true. Because they know that Sergei Bobrovsky is the difference maker. Sergei Bobrovsky, if hot, is going to make it extremely tough on you to score. Just extremely tough. You saw it. You saw it the other night. But Tampa has pride. They're playing at home. They can't afford to be down 2-0 and create a lot of questions. Now, the numbers, again, are certainly in their favor. Only one time during the regular season they lost back-to-back games. And to find that, you have to go all the way back to November. Like at the beginning of the year, they lost back-to-back games. It never happened to them after that. But then again, they had never blown a 3-goal lead since 2015. And it had never happened to them in the playoffs. So take those numbers into consideration, will you? So the bottom line is, you never know what's going to happen until the game begins. And then as we saw the other night, you don't even know what's going to happen once the game begins and gets underway. Because the other night after the first period, you could have turned that game off and walked away from it, and you would have thought that you missed absolutely nothing except a huge shellacking of the Blue Jackets. And all of a sudden, you turn around and you look when it's all said and done, and you missed a great game. You missed one of the best games in the history of the Blue Jackets, I think. I really do. That's got to be, okay, if it's not the biggest playoff win, you know, the overtime game against Pittsburgh at home where Nick Foligno scores, that was absolutely huge. Maybe that's the biggest one to this point. The biggest one is coming, actually. That's why I said to this point. You know what the biggest one is going to be? When they win to move on to round 2. And after that, the biggest one is going to be when they win to move on to round 3, and then when they win the Stanley Cup. Those are going to be the biggest ones, right? But this one is always going to rank, I think. Playing against a juggernaut team, being down 3-0, coming back and winning, that's always going to be, that is now etched in Blue Jackets history. No question. The only question is, how big is that game going to be in this series? How big is it going to be? Because the Tampa Bay Lightning took a punch in the mouth in Game 1. So they're probably awakened now, and they will they'll be ready to go tonight. They will be ready to go tonight. But so will the Blue Jackets. Yesterday there was a practice. It was a short practice. It was a good practice. And when the team practiced here before Game 2, when they practiced on Tuesday, it was fun. It was light. There were a lot of smiles. And it was that same way yesterday, but it was light and there were smiles. But, again, there is a sense of business in the dressing room. There's a sense of a job to do. And that's exactly the way it should be, because they do have a job to do, and they've got a big job to do here tonight. So we'll find out tonight if they're able to get that job done and if they can indeed take a commanding lead in this series. And I say commanding lead. I don't say a lead that is insurmountable because, again, it's not that long ago the Blue Jackets were in that position, and you saw what happened. So look, it's all about just staying calm and playing within yourself and playing their game. You know, it's funny when they say playing their game because it's one of the big cliches in hockey. Oh, we just have to play our game. If we play our game and if they play their game and we play, you know, they say it all the time. All the time they're talking about playing their game. But the fact of the matter is, it's true with this team anyway, because the minute they started to play their game, then they could skate with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then they could control the pace on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then they could get extended pressure in the offensive zone against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It didn't happen when they got away from their game. But once they started to play it, oh boy, look out. Once they started to play it, it was just good luck to you. Absolutely good luck to you. So great job by the Blue Jackets 2 days ago, and now it's time to go back to work. One thing I'll be interested in seeing is what the line combinations are at the beginning of the game. And if I were going to take a good guess, knowing John Tortorella like I do from his years here with the Blue Jackets, if I were to make a guess, I would say that he is not going to return to the lines that he had at the start of the game on Wednesday night. I think he will start with what he finished with on Wednesday night. Now, what was that? He took Cam Atkinson off the top line, replaced him with Oliver Bjorkstrand. That is so much easier of a switch to make right now for John Tortorella because of the way Bjorkstrand has played in the last 3 weeks of the regular season. The way he got hot and he scored goals in 6 straight games, that is such an easy switch to make. And I thought Bjorkstrand was effective there, quite frankly. I thought he brought a little bit more jump to that line. And Torch, he told me, this was not that many games ago when I interviewed him for pregame. Remember, he said this is when he found the Dzingel, Duchesne, and Anderson line that clicked for a while. And I said to him about changing lines. It was the game against the Islanders on the road. And that's when he did it. And the next game, I asked him, I said, sometimes it's kind of maddening with your line combinations, but you found a line by just making changes. And he said, I'm not going to be one to stand there and just let it go if it stinks. I'm going to change it until I find something that works. And in that case, he ended up finding a line. So, again, that's what he did the other night. He made the change. He put Bjorkstrand in place of Cam Atkinson. And yesterday he explained exactly why he did that.
I just wanted to change it. I thought we needed a change, and I didn't like our compete at all as far as our battles. The second half of that, I thought we started off really well. Second half, it's a very, very talented team that we're playing, but it's a very, very hard-working team we're playing. I thought we got outworked off pucks in that second half of the first period. And if this team can't do that with them, we're in trouble. We have to at least do that with them and then work from there. And then I thought we regained ourselves after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's right. If they can't do that, they're in trouble. If they can't work with the Tampa Bay Lightning, then they're in big trouble because the Blue Jackets are all about work. It's blue-collar effort. And if you can't do that, you're going nowhere in this series. And again, I'm not sold on the fact that there's blue-collar with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I don't mean that as any disrespect. What I mean is they are so high-flying, high-scoring, haven't been challenged really in a long, long time. Can they lock down on a team? Can they grind down on the Blue Jackets the way the Blue Jackets did to them in the final 5 minutes and 55 seconds of the third period once the Blue Jackets had the 1-goal lead? Can they do that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying they can't. But is it a blue-collar team against a high white-collar team? I don't know. And that's why, again, come back to what I said right at the beginning. Tonight is going to give us a really good look at what this series is going to be. I really think it is. So that's why the anticipation builds, and you can't wait to drop the puck tonight. So it's coming up in a couple of hours, but I've got a lot more to talk about. You'll hear from Josh Anderson. You'll hear from Alexander Texier coming up here in just a few moments. And a little bit later, Erik Erlendsson, who is part of the Tampa Bay Lightning's Power Play channel. Yes, they have their own 24-hour-a-day broadcast channel, radio channel. So Erik will join me. We'll get the Lightning perspective, and he'll be able to tell you what the real feelings are with the Tampa Bay Lightning and what those players feel, what John Cooper feels, and what he thinks you're going to see out of them tonight. That is all coming up as we continue on today's edition of CBJ in 30 Live. Welcome back to CBJ in 30 Live, Game 2 of this first-round playoff series between the Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning getting underway tonight at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage will begin at 6 o'clock this evening. To Ohio Credit Union, what do you know about them? Well, what you should know is that they have been putting people above profits since 1934. What you should know about them is that going above and beyond is not anything unusual. It's just everyday business at Ohio. You should know those things, and if you don't know, now you do. But here's some other things that you should know. Go to telhio.org and find out why you should become a member of Telhio Credit Union. Find out about all the different benefits that they have, like exclusive savings that you can pick up every day on outside retailers. Yeah, that's right. If you're a member of Telhio, there are other companies that you can get discounts at just because of that membership. It's no lie. Find out about all the different services, checking, the savings, the personal loans, all of those things. They're right there, and the information is right at your fingertips. And if you can't find the information, if it's too overwhelming because there's a ton of it there on telhio.org, just click on the live chat option, and somebody will pop up on the screen to talk you right through it and answer all of your questions. It is so easy to do. And the other option is you can stop by any local Telhio Credit Union office and actually speak to a person, and they will do the same thing. They will tell you exactly what it is that you need to know and how they can help you manage your money. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in Central and Southwestern Ohio. They are federally insured by NCUA. So it's game 2 tonight. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I just don't know if maybe I just need some motivation. I need some motivation. Do you need motivated? Maybe what could possibly get me more motivated today?
Forget about skills. Forget about X's and O's. It's a mindset of believing. It's amazing what can happen. So you stand in there. You stand in there, and you don't take a backward step. Not for a second. It's a great opportunity to stand right face to face with him and go right to him. There is no one taking a back step here. All right, let's be ready.
There it is. Now I'm motivated. That was John Tortorella in his pregame speech that was captured by Fox Sports Ohio before Game 1. For anybody that criticizes John Tortorella for whatever it is that he does, for whatever, and there are plenty of criticisms out there for Torts, that is why you have John Tortorella. That is it. To me, that is it in a nutshell, right there. That's who he is, and that's how he gets you to play. The other day, before Game 1, we were in the Lightning dressing room, and Dan Girardi, who is a former Ranger who played for Torts, he was asked about the Blue Jackets. And without hesitation, he said, I know that Torts will have those guys ready to run through a wall for him. And there it is. I was reading an article from Joe Smith in The Athletic, covers the Lightning, and he was talking to Tim Taylor, who is a scout. And Tim was a centerman on the 2004 Lightning team that won the Stanley Cup under John Tortorella. And in the article, it was saying that Tim was laughing when he heard the speech because he had heard it many, many times before. It's a speech that happened to get captured on video and happened to be put out to the world. And I know that Torts is not – he's the kind of guy that makes him uneasy because he doesn't want the focus to be on him. He wants the focus to be on the team, and it is. The focus is on the team. It's about the players that play and the players that win or lose the games. I understand that, and so does he. But where I think that he gets too bothered, personally, is he gets too bothered about he doesn't want to make him any part of it. Let's face facts. John Tortorella is a huge part of what the Columbus Blue Jackets are. And he has been ever since the first day he showed up on the job. Since that first game that he coached in Minnesota, taking over a team that was 0-7, and they lost that first game. They went 0-8. But from that moment till now, the mindset has changed. Yes, the personnel has changed. That's going to happen anywhere. But the good thing is once the mindset changes, any new personnel that comes in is subject to the new mindset. That's what John Tortorella does for a team. That's what he does so well for a team. And look, there doesn't have to be a lot of focus on him, but I think something like that gives you a glimpse as to why he's effective and why he's been effective for so many years. He always talks about the mental part of the game. He loves to manipulate mentally, sometimes to a fault, but he loves it. It's his challenge, his personal challenge, to get those athletes to respond at the highest level. And in Game 1, that happened. And if you're looking for more of those speeches, you probably won't find one, because I don't know how you top that. Seriously. I mean, I think that is You happen to see that, and I don't know how you get better than that. I don't. So maybe you don't see another one, but you saw that one. And, wow. It was great. It was great. But he'll have him ready to go again tonight. All the way down to the young rookie, Alexander Texier. Played 3 National Hockey League games, one of them a Stanley Cup playoff game. You know, he didn't have any points the other night, but he certainly didn't look out of place. And remember in New York last Friday when he said he wasn't nervous at all, even though he was playing at Madison Square Garden? Nah, not nervous. It's no big deal every day. This 19-year-old native of France just made it sound like it's an everyday thing. Well, yesterday he actually admitted that he wasn't overwhelmed by playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but he certainly was impressed.
First time I stepped on the ice, I was like, wow, it's, just have fun, and, it's everything comes quicker, faster, like everything is different than the regular season.
Yeah, everything's different than the regular season. What, you mean the regular season over in Finland where you were playing most of the year? The regular season in Cleveland where you were for a week and scored 7 points in 7 games? Or the regular season that you played the final 2 games of in the NHL? It's still unbelievable, the trip that this kid has made in such a short period of time. And he's back in the lineup tonight for sure. There's no doubt about that. Josh Anderson scores the shorthanded goal that ties the game the other night. Such an important goal. And Josh Anderson is such a key to this series for me. The way he plays physically, the way he skates, the way he shoots the puck. He is an X factor. And when I had Jody Shelley on before Game 1, we talked about Josh, and he compared him to Tom Wilson, just in the fact that Tom Wilson was such an impact player in the playoffs last year for the Washington Capitals. Josh isn't going to get into any of those cheap shots and blindside hits and all that stuff. He's just going to skate fast. He's going to skate hard. He's going to come after you. He's going to finish his checks, and he's going to attack the net. And he did that the other night with a shorthanded goal. But the penalty kill has been so good. It finished tied for first in the league by the end of the regular season. And Josh says there really is a reason that penalty kill is so good.
All year we've been pretty good at it, and we've bought into the system. We know where each other are on the ice, and it feels like when we all go, we know where to go and things like that. So obviously coming in this series with the top power play in the league, you got to be on your game at all times and know what's going on. So.
Josh, how much more comfortable and confident are you with the puck on your stick now when you're shooting? After the big year that you had and the number of goals, just every time you go to the net, how much more confident are you about getting that shot in?
Yeah, obviously it's a dangerous shot. I like to switch it up sometimes, but if I see an area where I'm going to try to put it there. And obviously, when you got guys going in the net, there's always going to be a rebound there. So, I feel pretty good right now. I feel confident with the puck, like you said, and I'm trying to make plays. But you got to be smart at all times because they always got forwards gene.
Yeah, they always do. This team always has forwards there attacking you, as he said. But Josh Anderson, huge goal for him the other night, and hopefully just one of many more to come because that's how important he is to this team in the way that he plays. Game 2 tonight, 7 o'clock face-off, 6 o'clock pregame coverage here on the Blue Jackets Radio Network. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the Lightning insider, Erik Erlendsson, and he's been covering this team since all the way back in 2000. So he knows the ins and outs, the nuts and the bolts, and we'll hear from him as CBJ and 30 Live continues. Game 2 tonight, 7 o'clock. Blue Jackets, Tampa Bay Lightning. The Blue Jackets lead the best-of-7 series 1-0. Pre-game coverage on the Blue Jackets Radio Network starts at 6 o'clock this evening. So the Blue Jackets get that first win. They come from behind. They stun the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what is the mindset on the Lightning side? Let's find out right now as I bring aboard Erik Erlendsson, who runs the website lightninginsider.com, and he also does a daily show on the Lightning Power Play radio channel. Erik, thanks for being with me this morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. What was the reaction on the Tampa Bay side after Game 1, especially a team that has really not faced much adversity in a long time in this league? They had a 3-0 lead, and all of a sudden it was gone, and they lost the game Were they stunned? Were they upset? What is the mindset of Tampa coming in here tonight?
Stunned, upset, angry at themselves. That pretty much sums it up. I mean, that's something that this franchise, let alone this franchise, hadn't done since I think 2010 was the last time they blew a 3-0 lead in a game of any kind and lost in regulation. So not used to seeing that around here for sure. I think the biggest takeaway from the Lightning side is that they beat themselves. You know, you look at some of those turnovers, some of those plays that fed right into what Columbus was trying to do. They were mistakes from veteran players, stuff we didn't expect to see. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that it was those guys, the guys that you count on to play big minutes and big roles. Those were the guys that made the mistakes that fed right into Columbus's comeback.
You know, this team was able to do pretty much whatever it wanted throughout the regular season. You can't say they were unchallenged, because I'm sure there were challenges along the way. But, man, when you put up 62 wins and you're over 120 points and you're cruising and you've locked up the President's Trophy a long time before the end of the regular season, does it take a game like that to kind of remind you that life is not as easy in the NHL as it was for you during the regular season?
Well, certainly, I think it's an understanding that, and they should know better than this with the experience they have over there. But playoffs are different than regular season. You know, that was a game on Wednesday that during the regular season they might have been able to get away with it. You know, they might have lost the lead because there was a couple of times this year, including a game in Philadelphia, they were up 5-1 in the third period, and Philly came back and tied it. Well, they rescued themselves by winning in overtime. You know, it doesn't work that way in the postseason. When a team gets a lead, as Columbus did, they locked it down pretty good. I think Tampa Bay only had 5 shots in the third period, so it's not anywhere near as easy. Even in the year they come back like this is, it's not easy to come back in the third period when you don't have the same or the right kind of urgency. And I think that's what that ends up being now for Tampa Bay, as they understand that, okay, they have to take their urgency level to a different level.
You know, you talked about locking it down, which the Blue Jackets did, as you mentioned. And my question is, with Tampa, and you've watched them for a long, long time, so you'll know the answer to this. Can they lock down the same type of way? We only see them 3 times during the regular season, and this year all we saw was the Lightning flying around, scoring goals almost at will, and didn't have to get into a situation where they had a lockdown on an opponent. With all the high skill they have, can they still do that when they get a lead?
They can. They just have to have the right mindset. And there was a stretch. They came out of a Christmas break where they won back-to-back games 6-5. And that's not the way you want to win games. And the coaching staff challenged the players, lock it down. We got to be better defensively. And at that point, they were about 14th or 15th in the league in goals against. And by the middle of February, they were all the way, I think they moved all the way up to 4th or 5th in league and goals against, and they cut down on some of their offense, and then they kind of found their hybrid in between to be able to score and also lock it down. So they have the ability. They just have to have the right mindset, and I think the comments coming from Steven Stamkos and John Cooper in particular after Wednesday's game is they chased the 4th goal. You don't need to chase a 4th goal when you're up 3-0 after the first period in the postseason. You have to lock it down, and I think that's the challenge. So I think if you see them get out to a lead tonight, I think you'll see them show that ability to be able to lock it down.
Talking with Erik Erlendsson, who runs lightninginsider.com. You talked about some of the veterans that made mistakes. Victor Hedman looked like he struggled a bit in Game 1 of this series. Of course, Victor is a guy that was out near the end of the regular season and is just getting back into the lineup. This guy is so big and he skates so well and he puts up points. He can do it all. Do you expect him to be a better player here tonight?
Yeah, he's a pretty fierce competitor. You know, he's one of those typical Swedish players sometimes that you see that off the ice are very mild-mannered and they don't seem to let things bother them so much. But he's a guy that he's going to challenge himself because he made 3 key mistakes in that game, 2 of them on the same play on a Savard goal. He is definitely going to be, I think, a different player this night because he is a difference maker. You know, if he's the reigning Norris Trophy winner. But I just don't wonder if the week and a half that he had off, because he missed the final 4 games and the final 2 periods of the game before that, if he wasn't a little rusty or whatever kept him out, maybe was bothering him to the point, because to see him sort of do the drive-by there on Savard on that second goal, that is so rare to see Victor get beaten by that, either physically or from a stick-checking standpoint. He's so good with a stick. You don't wonder if there was something kind of going through his mind there in that moment that, hey, don't hurt yourself again.
Erik, you've been here for such a long time, been here since 2000. You've watched this team over the years. You've watched them win a cup. You've watched them rebuild, and you've watched them now become the powerhouse that they are once again. John Tortorella is one of the guys that you dealt with when he was here. And what is the Torts factor in this series? Because, I just a little bit ago I just played the speech that he gave before the game that went viral, of course, after it got out there. And I'm sure the Lightning players of yesteryear know that speech all too well. What kind of a factor can John Tortorella be in this series?
Well, he finds a way to, I think, get a little bit more out of players than even they understand they can give. Like he finds a way to have them dig down and find that will. And he's also very good at taking the pressure off his team. You go back to the 2004 conference finals and the back and forth with Ken Hitchcock in Philadelphia, the shut your yap situation that came out, and after they lost game 2 to the Flyers. And then you go back to the 2004 Cup and going back to Calgary for game 6, they're down 3-2, and he made sure everybody know, hey, the pressure's on them. They have to win. It's in Canada. The Cup is here. Like he's really good at those sort of motivational mind games, both for his team and to kind of get in the other team's head a little bit. He's really good at that, and certainly the speech that we all caught glimpses of there from Wednesday, I think, is a good indicator of the kind of motivation that he can bring out of players. He just, again, to find that will. Skilled players, they have skills. Sometimes they got to find that extra gear for the will.
As you're telling those stories about the Hitchcock story and the Calgary story, it's so funny. It made me think about earlier this year, the Blue Jackets are in Winnipeg, and it was one of the times of the year there was a whole bunch of Panarin, Bobrovsky turmoil talk that was going on around the team. And Torts came out for his pregame press conference and immediately started basically attacking, I have one centerman that's playing right now. I can't find anybody else. And I feel I've gotten to know him pretty well over the course of the last 3+ years. And then I get him for a one-on-one interview right after he's done with that. So, he's fire and brimstone in this thing. And then we go off to the side, and he's John Tortorella. And people were fired up, and it was Canada, of course, so it was across the nation, everything that he said, all of his comments and the way that he acted. And I told people after that, I said, look, you got to realize it's a show. I said, look what he did right there. He took all of the Panarin Bobrovsky talk that has been going on everywhere. That just got kicked to the corner because he brought the focus on himself. And it's funny because he's a guy that doesn't want the focus on himself. But, man, when he gets it there and he takes it off the players, it really makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. And what's funny about that 2004 conference final thing with Ken Hitchcock, it was unprompted. We didn't ask the questions the travel day between games 2 and 3. He came out and he wanted to make a point, and he wanted to put that spotlight on himself and to show you how much it worked. The way to get into the arena in Philly, you kind of go down the bus ramp, and then you have that overhang above where the teams get off the bus. And, Philly fans, they're all hanging up there. So the Lightning bus pulls in, and one by one, all the players come shuffling off. Brad Richards, Vinny LeCavalier, Marty St. Louis, Nikolai Happy-Bulin. Not a peep from the Philly fans. As soon as John Tortorella took a step off that bus, boy, did he hear it. Shut your yap and all this other stuff. And it worked magical because nobody was talking about the players and the fact that they just got blown out. Everybody was talking about John Tortorella and shut your yap. So it's a master game, and he's really good at it.
All right, Erik, the final thing I want to ask you is what do you expect to see tonight? And I know that's kind of a loaded question because nobody would have said on Wednesday, I expect to see the Blue Jackets come back from a 3-goal deficit and win the game. But what do you expect to see here this evening?
I expect to see more disciplined Tampa Bay team with the puck, and because if you look at the way that Columbus was able to come back in that game, it was completely fed off of just turnovers we're not used to seeing this team to commit, and certainly mistakes are always a part of the game. Usually the team that makes the fewest mistakes ends up having a better chance to win. But just the way they do it, and the first goal in particular, I mean, a guy like Ryan McDonough, who's been there and done that, for some reason, rather than getting a puck on net, tries to go back to his defensive partner who's cutting down. You don't see that play too often from Tampa Bay. So I think you're going to see them play a much more disciplined game with the puck because we know playoff series are all about adjustments. Okay, what do we do wrong? What do we need to do better at? Do we need to tweak our system, whatever it is? I don't think Tampa Bay has to change too much. They have to just be better with the puck, and I expect them to be.
Erik, thank you so much. Appreciate the insight, and enjoy the game tonight.
Okay, Bob. We'll see you down the rink.
All right, that's Erik Erlendsson. He is the guy that has put together LightningInsider.com. He also is a host on the Lightning Power Play radio channel. Again, 7 o'clock is when the game begins tonight. Our pregame coverage on the Blue Jackets radio network will start at 6 o'clock this evening. Can the Blue Jackets bring a 2-0 lead back home to Columbus? We're going to find out tonight. That'll do it for today's edition of CBJ in 30 Live.